Sleep Without Dreaming is, I don't know how they necessarily schedule drugs in your country, but in our country they have narcotics, you know, Schedule 1, Schedule 2, and it's kind of, when you take heavy narcotics, you sleep without dreaming. You know, it's a deep sleep, and in the beginning, for me, the record is very personal, and it was a way for me, for the first time in my life, to process years of abuse, addiction, and things like that. I wanted to dream, and I wanted to live in dreams forever, but at a certain point, the sleep became without dreaming, and I would have never woken up if I hadn't stopped. And at the end of the day, when every dream is a nightmare, all you want to do is sleep without dreaming. Yeah, well, actually, Jensen, our bass player, I've known him the longest in the band. We grew up together about 2 blocks away from each other. So BEECHWOOD for me, it was named after the street that I grew up on. And for me, it was just, there was never any concept of it has to be this, it has to be that. It was just something that always had to keep progressing and moving forward, and whatever that took, we did, and we just follow our hearts, you know. And the reality of the situation was basically that not every musician can be in this band, you know. It's not a very easy band to be in. We each, you know, we have our own issues, and we accept each other because we're brothers, but to let one more person in is very hard and very difficult. So, you know, when we record, I do guitar, you know, I overdub a lot of guitar parts, and we used to always just have to kind of simplify them live, and just because there wasn't that fourth guy that I could trust, because if I'm going to be on stage with someone, I need to trust that person with my life, and that's how I feel, and I think that's how every band should feel, and that's a true brother, you know, that's a true family, and Jensen, our bass player, has been that person, and he was away for a long time. He was kind of drifting around, and actually COVID kind of gave us the chance for him to come back and reconnect and kind of rebuild and move forward and figure out a path forward, and the result has been the 4-piece, and it's been great. Yeah, I mean, it's a term that I recorded that in my basement when I was probably 17, 18, over the course of like a year. And it was a time I was full of anger. I felt very much that rock and roll had lost some kind of raw, like danger, you know? Also, you know, when words by themselves mean nothing, but you put 2 words together and it creates something else, you know? So it was trying to kind of explain, you know, that record for me is very much just me trying to, every record I've done is really an emotional outlet for me, and at that point it happened to be anger a lot, and you know, I felt like rock and roll needed some trash and some glamour, and the 2 things combined, and just kind of like a kick up the ass at the time. You know, it's something I don't relate to as much anymore because I've grown since then, but yeah, I mean, that's how I felt at the time. It's hard to say because New York is forever changing, you know? And people will always say, oh, the 70s, oh, CBGBs, oh, that. But the whole idea behind that was change and new, you know? So all the people who say, oh, I wish it was like this, it was so much better back then, like they're missing the point, you know? The point was that it was new, and that that you smash whatever is going, the status quo, and you build something new from it. And we don't get to choose what year we're born. We don't get to choose where we're born. We don't get to choose who our parents are, who our family is. And New York is the kind of place where people come from all over the country, and they can choose their tribe, you know, and their family. And people come from small towns all over the world, really, and come to New York City to find people they connect with, and that they can, you know, that their whole lives they felt like they weren't understood or they were outcasted, and they can come to New York and destroy the old version of everything they felt that was not accepting of them, and find people who love and care about them, and make their own family and start something new. And that's what's important about New York City. That's what New York City is. It's about reinvention and change and finding people, creating your own family, you know? And whether that's at CBGB's in 1977 or, you know, in Brooklyn in 2022, you know, it doesn't matter. It's all about, it's just about, everyone has their own New York, really, you know? And it's what you make of it. I mean, actually, my father painted that. It's something I've never been able to really speak about openly before, is that I've had heroin addiction in my life for years, and I'm lucky enough to be a survivor and have that chapter of my life in the past. But when you go through that, your whole family, your friends, there's a process of every spectrum of emotion, and it starts, you know, there's pain, there's sadness, there's anger, you blame people, and all this other stuff. And in the end, I've come out of it with a certain level of wisdom, I hope at least, an acceptance, and just knowing that, like, there's love, and when I feel that craving or that urge, that there's love, and that I have a family, whether it's my chosen family, BEECHWOOD, my brothers, or it's my real family. And just these days in my life, it's very important for me to keep that close. And having my father's painting on the album cover was part of that. And it also, there's a certain, you know, there's the figures on the album, and they're not quite touching, they're almost the same being, and they're not quite touching, but they are touching, and there's a lot of noise in the background. And for me, it kind of was a picture that if I did an x-ray of my brain, you know, maybe that's what it looks like. It's something that I grew up with it in my house, and I always knew from how this record was organically being made that it was gonna be the cover. Like, it had to be. I love all types of music. I love, you know, there's for me, there's good music and bad music. Words, genres, good and bad for me. I don't go about a certain song thinking about a certain style. You know what I mean? We try to not intellectualize too much about it, but if there is, it's almost an anti-intellectual approach to music where it's very, very visceral, and wherever the song takes you is where you go. And to have people around you that you trust and that you're not afraid to say, oh, let's try this or let's try that. And maybe it sounds like absolute garbage, but at least you tried it, you know? And to have someone around you that you're open enough to say that with is what makes our music what it is that we can try different things, and that we trust ourselves, we trust each other, we trust our instincts. We're all humans, we have egos and stuff, but and it's definitely a process, but leaving, you know, once you step into the studio, leaving your ego at the door is incredibly important, because as soon as you start saying it has to be this way, it has to be that way, you lose a certain element of honesty and truth that you know, that you would have gotten to, you know. And I think it's sad, and it's one of my feelings that I feel strongly about, is that I think a lot of bands feel maybe a pressure or something where they feel like they have to fit into a certain box, or like, oh, maybe a journalist said they sound like this band, or they've been labeled post-punk, so they always have to sound like that, you know. Like for like, that's, in my opinion, like, that's death for a band. So it's really about the song for us. We're a song-oriented band, and it's as simple as that, you know. It's Jim Carroll, The Basketball Diaries, and Forced Entries, and Burroughs Junkies. Jim Carroll for me has been kind of a guiding spirit in my life, especially Forced Entries. Basketball Diaries is something that I've read probably 50 times and I carry it wherever I go, and it's something that I've connected to so deeply on many levels that it's helped me. Just Jim Carroll is just, for me, has helped me understand myself in a way. So if there's one literary guy that I will talk about forever, it's Jim Carroll.